Yeah, the only way to get the true demotion experience, let's hope you get there, is to be on the edge of Grandmaster, which means you get demoted. And potentially, there was a time when I was in like the bottom 20, I mean, I know, humble brag, the lowest of the best league, where every day I would get demoted, and then 3 hours later, I would get promoted back to Grandmaster. And that happened like every day for 2 weeks straight, which is pretty cool. Like, and then you get the Grandmaster promotion screen every day. Just saying. Yeah. Flexing.
Yeah,
one day. All right. So, homework was connect auto uploader S2 replay stats. How did that go?
I talked to the guy. There's a bug that the new update with Mac. It doesn't work, so he's working on
Breath,
it,
did you break it? He's in the chat right now, by the way. Being all helpful. So, on a Mac. All right.
Yeah, he gave me some homework to buy a PC like a normal person. That's what he said.
that was his advice there. Very helpful. Are you still uploading some manually?
Yeah, typically.
Yeah, it's not too bad to do that. It's just a little more tedious.
Yeah.
Is this Rollcat? Are you Rollcat?
No.
I assume he's helping multiple people. Some of them might have the same issue as you. Okay, so that was the first thing outside, but I mean, you got promoted, so I'll imagine. So you've been using S2 replay stats to an extent. Is there anything you've been looking at specifically, or like anything? Just one thing.
Mostly the I guess called the training center, the improvement points.
And what was the big takeaway for you? Like, what was one big thing you saw?
Build units.
Literally just, you're not building out of your production facilities?
Yes.
That's a good one. Like, that's a good problem to have, because that means you built the production facilities. So at least you had that. Like, let's look on the bright side. And I'm looking at my general notes. It's under pressure, you need to build SCVs. You think you improved on that? Like, anything else happening? Okay. And
yeah,
then...
like, during the fights, I usually build units and SCVs, but yeah.
But then right under this, I have go into replay and see the first 3 times you were lacking SCV production. Do any of that?
I did a bit of that. It's different every time, but I would say there's like generally 2 categories. One is like if I'm being harassed, I instantly stop, and then the other is like if I get off of my build or something. I don't.
Makes
really
it harder to get back on your build if you don't build SCVs. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't really do any like harassment myself anymore because I don't have to.
So these are kind of mostly just yes or no's, but and just like yes or no on whether most of the time. I know it's not going to be 100%, but using mostly the same opener at least until the second command center against all races. Is that something you're doing?
Oh yes, definitely.
And then going 4 Hellions against Zerg?
No.
All right, we'll take a look. Starport at the latest 4 minutes.
Yes.
Worry about yourself.
Yes.
No TPM over 1 in the first 30 minutes.
Yes.
Hotkeys.
Sometimes.
4 turrets max before 150 supply. You can see the kind of problems we were having.
Yeah, I think I might have gone to the other extreme, like no turrets.
That's usually better in the long run, but obviously there's a balance there. Okay. So that's enough of the past. This is new Platinum you. So, new problems. Well, probably the same problems, but in different ways. Let me get my notepad set up. Yes, very complicated. All right. So before we get into it, what do you think are the biggest issues on this game?
On on this game, I would say just getting off my build and then having a bunch of money and not knowing what to do with it and saying, fuck it, let's just try for a win.
Those all seem like very different things.
And I guess they kind of like led to each other, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna be on your camera most of the time, just for reference.
I'm sure it'll be better this time.
Oh my god, I'm not sure it'll be better this time. Despite my words. Though the voice line is different for whoever's watching the replay, it just randomly chooses one. You too. Written out. With a lot of effort. I'm not judging. I'm only judging a little. There's nothing to complain about yet. We're good. Depot at the right time. So the opener is going to be Reaper Expand. Is that correct? Where's it? Oh, that's fair. That makes sense.
Marine Expand, I guess.
Marine Expand.
Just the general build that you told me to do.
That's fair. I remember now. All right. We get to speed up a little. Any reason for Command Center on 5 and Barracks on 4, or is that just kind of how you do it? It's not necessarily bad. I'm just...
I one day aspire to have 3 army hotkeys.
It was just most people put Command Center on 4 and their production on 5. Not so much like having those keys. I was wondering if that's just like how you did it to start. It's not necessarily good or bad.
Oh yeah, that's just how I did it to start.
Marine Expand, he says. Do you have the production tab open?
Yes.
Did you just open the production tab? I know.
Yes.
So what do you see?
See a Reaper.
For who?
For both of us.
Exactly.
I guess I don't remember building a Reaper. I think I know why I built a Reaper.
Since we're getting closer at Platinum, I don't think it matters, but we're getting closer. Honestly, getting to Platinum is a pretty big step. I do think it's not just a meme as the gold wall for Terrans. Like that, you got past that, you can start thinking about different matchups. Like a Reaper is a big deal in TVT because a Reaper is good against Reapers. But against Zerg and against Protoss, it's not as huge a deal because you're not dealing with Reapers early. Like just having Marines defend.
Your command center better than ever.
You see what? Well, we'll see. Give it a second. Okay, so a few things here. One, the second depot. Where is it?
Not yet.
It's kind of a key point. Also, I would direct your attention to the minimap.
Yes. Did not see that until...
This is kind of... I don't really have... My only tip is like... I've never tried it, but some people... It can't hurt, is putting like a 5-second timer, like just something like one of those YouTube videos that has a beep or something every 5 seconds. Or like a 5-second audio clip on repeat. And then forcing yourself to check the minimap. Like, I don't think about how often I check the minimap, but I noticed the bunker, didn't I? Right? So, you can't miss that. That is, you cannot have a bunker just show up behind your mineral line after scouting it. Like, that is the kind of thing that will lose you games. And there's just, like, you just have to see it. So, Can you tell me why we don't build Reapers?
Because they distract us from our build.
And what is this Reaper doing?
Well, this is an SCV. But
No.
yeah,
What is
Reapers-
your Reaper and the existence of it doing? Would you be attacking with this SCV if the Reaper wasn't coming? Do you think that'd be a priority?
Yeah, probably not.
It's a little late. It's a little late for this. Once the bunker is done. Also, yeah, this is kind of just unacceptable.
New subscriber detected.
Like,
Love the content. Laugh at your face.
Reapers hurt more than help is my general so far. Like, so far, because you've built a Reaper at all, you missed your second depot. He has a bunker behind your mineral line. Your SCV is what's about to die for no reason. And you're not building anything out of your barracks. Like, you built a Reaper, and now the entire game is a, the technical term is shit show. Because right now, everything that could have gone wrong between, like, your barracks finishing and now has. You're going to lose your scouting SCV. You're going to be supply blocked. Your command center's going to get delayed. Bunch of SCVs off the line. Your barracks ain't producing anything. Your command center, at least, is producing something. Like, I don't have anything for you for this. Like, there's no way to fix this besides forcing yourself not to distract yourself. This just, like, there's no tip I can give you besides what I already gave you, which is worry about yourself. That was in your defense. Everything was in all caps on the coaching. So, like, that doesn't but by worry about yourself, this is what I mean. You worried about anything he was doing, and now your base is a disaster. So the only thing you needed to do, and I'm going to keep stressing it, is if you had just stared at your base, you wouldn't have missed the bunker, your Reaper wouldn't be halfway across the map, and you wouldn't be supply blocked. Like, I almost want to just turn the replay off now, because everything past this, it's important to learn what to do, because sometimes things will be crazy and things like this will happen. But 9 out of 10 times, all you had to do was not worry about him and to fix it. You see this? Does that make sense?
Yep.
The enemy is attacking your...
Yeah, like, you killed that SCV, which was sick. But what's more valuable? Having 6 SCVs mining and not being supply blocked, or killing 1 SCV?
Yeah, fair point.
Okay, so let's say that bunker wasn't finished and there wasn't about to be a Reaper in it. You gotta go around the sides. Like, there's no amount of pilot on that 1 SCV that's going to make your SCV's attack better. Yeah, this is, I did say shit show, didn't I? So I think that covered it. On the bright side, now you're not supply blocked. So there's that. Like,
Your add-on has been constructed.
so what would the answer be here? The answer
Rather than
actually
spam.
was, well, in this scenario, I'm just going to throw out the fact that this was all entirely avoidable. In this scenario, let's just say he's got a bunker coming up and he's got a Reaper. He got 2 options. The Reaper's not going to beat the bunker. If he has 1 Reaper in a bunker and you have 1 Reaper, you're not going to win that fight. The best choice actually was to pull the SCVs until you finish the command center. I'd rather lose 2 SCVs to finish the command center than sit there with a 98% done command center after losing SCVs anyways, right? Like, So you got the worst of both worlds out of that one. You lost SCVs and you didn't finish the CC. So finishing, like, what at this point, if it's one Reaper, finishing the CC is the priority.
So just like cycling in and out, like SCVs to.
No. Just attack, move the bunker, and let your SCV. If he targets the SCV in the command center, then he's missing something back at home, and he's definitely missing something back at home. But okay, and there's a reason you have all these minerals, and that like there's no way you cannot afford 5 barracks on one base. You can't.
Your precious base.
This is why SC2 replay stats tells you you're not building units. It's because as soon as you get money, you decide to buy a new Lamborghini. I mean, 4 more barracks, and then you can't afford the monthly payments of building Marines.
To that one.
No. Okay, so do you know how many supply depots the command center counts as?
2.
Yes. That's another reason why finishing the command center is such a high priority.
My thinking there was that you just wouldn't be able to kill it before I could beat him. So I just left it.
But it's all like if the right now, if an SCV, like, it comes down to RNG, the SCV pathing. But if you started building it from the like south side of the command center with one SCV, there's a good chance that even if it decided to throw itself to the other side into Reaper fire, you would still finish. All you need is one SCV. You gotta finish that command center. What are you doing out here? One S. This is
New subscriber detected.
your first priority when in a game like this should be to follow your game plan. And I'm going to tell you your game plan, and you tell me how close that sounds to what you want to do. Not what you end up doing. Your game plan is, early on, get a command center, a barracks, a factory, a starport, and then, while building SCVs, build up some Marines and tanks, and maybe some Vikings, until, like, 4 or 5 minutes when you can add on some more barracks and engineering base. How does that sound?
Yeah, that's pretty close.
So, that's your plan. The first part is getting a CC. So you get that done. Unless you're going to lose your entire economy, which if one Reaper kills your entire economy, you probably deserved it. Your first priority is to finish that CC. Even if it hurts. Especially at this level, like, having a game plan and doing it poorly is better than doing nothing well.
Your base is under
That's math, I think. You notice, this is, You don't need that many. Did you look at this replay before sending it? You did?
Yep.
base
Did this stick out as a painful reaction to you?
under attack. Time to lift to the
Yeah, this is like one of 2 types of games that I play these days. It's like either it all falls apart or it kind of goes okay. This is one of the all falls apart things.
Those are 2 very general categories. Yeah, this is your first priority, no matter what, is get back on that game plan. It will serve you better, especially the way you're trying to play, to focus 100% on getting back on track. Also, this is a Bronze League Heroes move here, slapping down 4 reactors, right? Like,
well,
we're gonna have 5 reactor Marine.
yeah, I know. This was my thinking, was that it was possible.
Oh, you were thinking that.
I was trying, yeah. I was thinking it was possible that he was so distracted that he had just all sorts of money in the bank and was banking on beating me with this bunker.
Don't project on him, all right? Like, assume your opponent, like, I think about 30% of the time, if you did something like this, then you'd be like, oh, wait, I'm getting really far ahead, and you'd focus on macro, right? Like, that's probably happened a few times. Because you realize, like, so that's actually what he is doing. Like, he's not doing a great job. I'm going to go to the everyone cam. He has focused on his game plan, to his credit.
Is that all?
It's not great. Like, he doesn't have a ton of stuff, but he got his command center. He got his barracks, his factory. Wow, those skins are very bright. Like, that's so chrome. He's really focused on his game plan. He's done a very good job at that, even if it isn't perfect. Whereas this hasn't succeeded entirely. It didn't need to actually kill anything to succeed here. Well, so how many SCVs are we building while the Reaper? I do love when command centers finish and then they start burning. Sometimes it's and I can't believe the Reaper got out. Like, I don't, oh god.
Your add-on is all
Yeah,
done.
he's gone. I wouldn't worry too much about the Reaper now.
CC up.
Okay, so there's no scenario like, okay, so you used as justification for building 5 reactored barracks that, oh, he probably didn't build anything at home, or maybe he didn't. One, that generally is a bad thought process, because once again, did I not mention worry about yourself? 2, how does that justify not having any tech labs for your barracks?
At this point, I was just, this was a Hail Mary. I was like, okay, this game is over, unless, of course, I can just walk up and
Except this game is not over. Don't touch any hotkeys, all right? How many workers do you think each player has?
I probably got
Go, number.
25 or 30.
You have 25. How many does he have?
35.
He's got 29. Is a 4-worker lead a game-ending disadvantage?
No.
Do you think? 4 workers is less than 1 mule of mining, by the way. A mule's about 5 SCVs of mining for the time it is up. That is why when in pro games you see like a Terran has 60 SCVs, a Zerg has 65 drones. The Zerg is struggling because they are.
Great done. You
With
remember
3
this
mules,
time?
the
Wow.
Terran effectively has 10 more workers. But in general, you should, if you're going to build, like, your first barracks should almost always be a reactor. Your second barracks should be a tech lab. Like, there are some pro builds where you, like, have your first barracks go on to a tech lab eventually, but those are for when you know you're going to be on top of your production. But at least getting combat shield. Okay, so I see SC2 replay stats has really nailed it down on the production issues. And
Yep.
it is a better problem to be building too many production facilities, but this is actually too many. Like 5 racks. Okay. 3 racks, 1 fact, 1 starport, 1 base. Worry about your damn self. I don't care what he's doing. You forgot your second depot. That's I'm putting that on the notes, just in case you read them. So, you can't support on one base. You can support at maximum, and one base is up to 25 SCVs. That's another way to look at it. Is 3 racks, 1 factory, and 1 starport. And then on 2 bases, you can support 5 racks, 1 to 2 factories, and 1 to 2 starports. And the 1 to 2 is like, you're probably gonna not build for a while, so it doesn't hurt that much to just get, because a factory costs 150, 100, which is a tank costs about that much. So but yeah, it's always better in this scenario. Like if you had gotten one barracks with a tech lab and get combat shields, I mean, that's 10 HP for all your Marines. So Marines have 45 HP, and with combat shield they have 55. So it's nearly a 20% HP increase across the board. Okay. What have we said about Reapers?
Don't use them. They distract you.
And what is this Reaper doing? This is
Gathering
not a bad
biointelligence.
scout, but like at some point it tilts from, oh, he's building a lot of Marines,
The
to
numbers
I
don't
can't stop
lie.
him because I spent 30 seconds microing my Reaper and I didn't build any Marines. As you notice your production right now. At least you're building SCVs.
Out of that.
Good thing we scouted the front of his base, though.
Look to the corner and still in the game. Nice.
You might-
Maru and Cyril make it look so easy.
Oh, okay. Well, that's one way to handle that situation.
Yeah.
Like, it's obviously a rough game, and this is probably GG. If you had produced 12 more Marines instead of microing a Reaper, maybe not. But, yeah, this was about, I mean, you did pick a good replay of demonstrating probably your biggest issue now, which is you need to worry about yourself. Like, every part of this replay, you needed to worry more about yourself and less about what he was doing. And every part of it, it hurt you. I can't do much more than tell you your first priority is to get back to the game plan. I'll give you like a flow chart for the early game. First one is expansion. Finish. 2 is second depot. 3 is SCV production. 4 is 111 finished, aka like Barracks Factory Starport. 5 is scouting him. So, in this case, you would have been at priority 5 while ignoring the first 4 priorities almost entirely. And, like, it depends on what he's doing, but one bunker, that bunker could have been stopped by your Reaper. Because if you both build a Reaper, and you both build them in your base, your Reaper is closer to your base. You following me? Like,
Yeah, let me do the math on that real fast.
yeah, I crunched
Yeah,
the
I got you.
numbers. But so if he's building a bunker behind your base, your Reaper should be able to get there before his. So maybe the metronome thing for the mini map, metronome for mini map or something, because you like, if he gets a bunker behind your mineral line at your natural, you kind of deserve it. Especially on this map, because the only way the Reaper can get there is up the ramp. Some maps, like Submarine, you have like that little side area where Reapers can jump in, and some maps will have little details like that. But here, he has to go all the way across the map, up your ramp, behind your mineral line. So if he gets a bunker finished there with a Reaper in it, that's that's very bad. So don't let that happen. That's
Right.
really the only takeaway. You got to focus on your game plan, worry about yourself, and look at the minimap. It sounds simple, I know, and but it's a lot of, like, you're actually playing. It's a lot harder. It's a lot easier to put on paper. Is that any other questions from that one?
No, I think I got it. So, even after it feels like it's gone really badly, I should not do Hail Mary. All
Don't.
those kind of things.
Well, you did a Hail Mary play, and then like, okay, there was the sports ball cup last night, right? You big sports ball fan?
No, not really. I mean, I'm sorry, huge.
But you huge sports ball fan. So like, what happened is you called the play, and you're like, all right, we're doing a Hail Mary, and then you just walked off the field. Like that's what you did, and everybody's just waiting for you to come back and do the play, and you're like, nah, I'm okay. Like, it looks pretty bad. Like, that's what we. Wait, are we both in the replay? I just reflexively kind of.
I'm in it. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So we'll get back. So that was rough. That was rough to watch, that last game. It was a pretty slow motion disaster. But I think kind of pausing and slowing it down, you can see how many opportunities you had to get off that train wreck and maybe head another direction. It's just sometimes you need someone else to point out all the potential direction changes. Okay. So, this is versus Zerg. What can you tell me about this one? What went wrong here?
Actually, I thought this one went pretty well.
This is a pretty good game from me. Replay.
Yeah. This is. I mean, the production, building out of the production is the biggest thing here, I think.
All right, we're scouting like off of 1 minute. Is that the idea?
Yes,
We're
sir.
scouting. So what are you looking for over there when you scout?
The expansion, so then I can expand on the low ground.
Okay, so you're about to see a spawning pool, and you're not gonna freak out, right?
Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and expand.
Is this something that's changed now? I forget if you were the, like... A lot of players are like, oh my god. Like, they'll see an expansion, and then they'll see a spawning pool, and
Your
oh my
CC
god, that's a
is now
spawning pool.
ECC. Better command center.
So we've gotten over that reflex?
It sounds familiar, yeah. But no longer.
So you said we're not going for the Hellions, then?
New
I always forget
subscriber
the Hellions.
detected.
I honestly don't know. I've watched
Army
people
under
do the
attack.
whole
Stim to win.
reactor flip and stuff like that. I've just never tried it.
Add-on complete.
It's kind of a huge, important part. Like, you need to start doing the Hellions. Because Hellions are actually better for defense than a siege tank. One, because you can threaten with them. And two, because a tank takes so long to come out. And tanks are not actually as good against lings early. On top of costing gas. So, like, if he just made a bunch of Zerglings, you'd be worse off with a tank than you would be with 4 Hellions usually. Like, it feels safer, but it's not actually... It's the illusion of safety. I'll give you the exact build. All right? I'm gonna write it down. So, what you do is... Here's your Hellion... And then, well, just Hellion reactor build. What you got is you got your barracks finishes, right? We got that far. We got that far just fine. Barracks finishes. Let's see. I need to crop this better. And then yada yada yada. Battle cruisers, profit. Barracks finishes, and then build 2 Marines. While building second Marine should have 100 gas for factory. Build factory near front. So, like, you notice you had 100 gas. You got a factory. Now, the timing of the reactor is relevant. after second Marine start reactor. So a reactor takes 10 seconds less, just about, than the factory. So what happens here is you build the factory first, and then while you're building, like you start that during the second Marine, and then after the second Marine you build a reactor. They should both finish right around the same time. And as factory reactor, well, after reactor finishes, lift factory onto reactor. Barracks where factory was, usually. And then you start starport as well. 2 Hellions. And second orbital, if not started yet, because it's kind of around the same time. You notice your factory finished right around when your second orbital started. So just in case you got distracted doing all that, it's to remind you on your second orbital. Because this is already going, like, we're graduating, essentially we're taking off the training wheels with the Terran builds now. The Siege Tank is a very advanced Silver League build. And I think you know that. How many pro Terran versus Zergs have you seen where, well, the Terran just opens up with a tank in a bunker?
Not for me.
The answer is essentially 0 where there's not a hatchery down that ramp. That is the only time when a tank and a bunker are the opener. And then, well, with all of this, if you can get this far with building a factory near the front after the second Marine, starting reactor, and then flipping the factory over, I'm just going to add some extra tips. Rebind, lift, and land to the F key. Have you rebound? You did?
I did that. I did have one problem with it.
And what was the problem?
Well, I was like fighting as the Protoss, and I accidentally lifted all of my barracks at once.
Well, don't hit the lift key when you're... One, if you're already producing Marines consistently, they won't lift. And 2, don't hit the lift key when you're fighting.
Yeah.
Like, it's 98% of the time. The entire point is it's easier to hit, because hitting the L key, like, this isn't Brood War. We don't need to be using the entire other half of the keyboard for some reason.
Yeah, I think I was trying to build Marauders, and I, like, misclicked or something like that. I don't remember exactly what happened.
But would you agree that having a significantly more convenient key to lift off and land is better than worrying about the one time where you misclick it at a bad spot? And remember, like, if you are producing, then they don't lift. So that's another problem solved. Like, if you were able to lift them, you were either supply blocked, maxed out, or you weren't spending your money. So you deserved it, in other words.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, like, do you need another supply depot right now?
No.
Are you even remotely supply blocked?
No,
obviously.
Well enough.
Yeah. But why?
I'm scared of those lings.
And we circle all the way back around. I would recommend watching, well, actually, even though it's definitely above yours and my speed, like, Hero Marine is probably your most regular Terran streamer. I don't know if his VODs are... yes, Big Gabe himself. I don't know if his VODs are subscriber locked or not, but I would recommend just watching him against... If he happens to find a Zerg on the ladder, it's probably Cyril or Raynor. The rest are Protoss and EU, but... essentially, if you try to copy him, he plays almost like a religious macro build. Like, Hellions into 3 command centers. I wouldn't recommend 3 command centers, but... And he usually does some pretty solid commentary on it. So I'm just gonna go ahead as general, like, watch Big Gabe. All right.
All right.
And also you'll get some very Terran commentary, and by that I
Yeah,
mean giving
was
you
actually
tips.
watching him last night.
Well, there you go. But pay attention instead of just enjoying the stream. There's a difference. It does take work to focus. But watch what he's doing when he's lifting. It's hard to, honestly, something that I like to do when watching Hero Marines particularly, he's very good about producing when it's not on the screen. Just watch the bottom box, because it doesn't look like, somehow he always has a bigger army at home than he just lost. And it's because you never see him producing, but he's always doing it, and that is your biggest issue. So at least you're already watching Big Game. So. What about Euthermal? The problem with Euthermal is he comes up with all these builds, and he expects people to be at least 3 times better than they are. Everybody keeps coming in trying to do Euthermal builds while being half the MMR of Euthermal, and it goes poorly. Sometimes it goes poorly for Euthermal, and we hear about that on Twitter. But I think for just generally watching, your Marine's pretty solid. But yeah, you don't like. We're starting to cut out the advanced Bronze League hero stuff, like walling off because the threat of Zerglings is scary. You know that's a inefficient move at the best, right? Like,
CC upgraded, but at what cost? Add-on is good to go.
yeah, we have. So now the issue is, because we built all this stuff, the rest of the build can't, like, walls don't defend things, units defend things. And if the tank is so delayed because we built those depots, and also that's not a tank. Did you build that Cyclone because you saw an Overlord and you're like, I want to kill that? Do you think?
I swear you told me to build a Cyclone first. Maybe you were talking about Protoss or Terran or something.
Well, since on my notes from last coaching, I said specifically 4 Hellions against Zerg, I would imagine I didn't tell you to build a Cyclone because a Cyclone requires a tech lab. I think I wrote that specifically because I'm like, except against Zerg, where you build Hellions.
Ah, yes. I
So
ignored the Hellions part.
I made that exception explicitly. All right. I just want to, just for the record,
Pog champ.
I did say that. And write it down. Legally.
Noted.
Noted. So, that is why you do, well, one, a Cyclone is one of the worst early game units against Zerg because of the unit you're so scared of, which is the Zerglings. They're just not good against Zerglings. Speaking of Zerglings, by the way. No. Watch out. Watch it. Don't let him in. So the bunker is fine. You can see how 4 Hellions would be pretty helpful here. The thing is, like, you might be scared to go for the 4. Maybe try against the AI a few times, but you really need the Hellion build. Essentially, like, it feels like it's more vulnerable until you get it down. There's a reason, literally for 11 years now, literally since the beginning of Wings of Liberty, Terrans have been going reactored Hellion. You could have used if the equivalent of a Wings of Liberty build today. This is why I laugh when people ask if I'm going to update my Terran guides, because right now the meta for Terran versus Zerg, watch Hero Marine, is essentially the exact same build as 2010. Like, I don't know how long exactly you've been playing, but it's pretty well mapped out by now. So we just made a bunch of Zerglings. You know you're facing a Platinum Zerg, right?
Yep.
You know my opinion of Platinum Zergs?
Yeah, you said they're really frustrated because we started building walls.
Yes. And what do you think when he builds a bunch of Zerglings? What do you think his next step is gonna be?
I got the production tab open, but I didn't think it at the time.
Now, I don't think you should just like. So your first reaction might be like, well, I need to build the wall 3 depots thicker. It's like, no. If it had been a tank, maybe just laying an Engie Bay down or 2. Engie Bay walls are probably the most efficient ones because they have a double purpose, right? Like, here you're like, this feels like an out of sight, out of mind situation. You're like, well, I killed the Zerglings, now I can make a Viking. Now this would be the time to go back to that Wings of Liberty build and build a Banshee. Like, also, right now, I would recommend just making those 2 Engie Bays there, like, or something that isn't depots. Ideally, like you want to make the wall as just Oh, okay, all right. Well, I was about to be like, it might be a little early for NG bays, but it's better than building a bunch of depots you don't need, because at least you'll need the NG bays. And then you went and built the NG bays, so. Yeah, it's better to just have them at the front. It's another thing, like, literally your homework is to watch Hero Marine. I would say watch My Terran, but don't. Watch Hero
Your
Marine.
base is under assault.
The wall worked out, like, I can't complain. Like, that's proof of concept right there. Of course he built more Zerglings, right? That was, he's about 70% of Zergs at this level. But the Hellions are still bad. Like, it doesn't matter what you have. Once the hard wall is up, it doesn't really matter what you got behind it, as long as you got something behind it. Alright. So, can you tell me what's wrong here?
You don't like me sending this Viking in to do
No,
something?
that's not it. I mean,
Oh.
it's not great on the Viking, especially because there's an Overlord on your minimap right now. Like,
Yeah.
for one,
Minimap.
but it's not the Viking.
It's not the Viking?
It's
Oh.
near the minimap, though. Hint.
Oh, 8 idle SCVs.
Yes, that is over 1/4 of your workforce right now is unemployed. So, do you know how to do? I think you just did it, right? The Control F1. You got that down.
I got it down.
That's actually that was solid there. That wasn't too long on the 8 idle SCVs. I just wanted to highlight it. At least we're getting some upgrades here. Like, honestly, well, it feels like this game so far, one, you need the Hellion build. But I will agree that this is looking more like your issue is you don't play enough. Which is, I mean, nobody plays enough, right? But this is, you're doing everything eventually you need to be doing. It's just taken a while to get there. Like, you need to be building SCVs, you need to be adding more production, you need to be dropping mules. But we're getting there. It's just, it's taking its time. These are the kind of things that the first 5 times you do it, it takes a while. Wait, did you drop the Viking? No, it's just chilling. Okay.
I intended to
Forces
drop
under
it.
attack. The boys
I
are
wanna
next.
miss it.
Okay, well that's worse. That's worse than your original move. I like this. And then you're like, oh, wait a second. You do have something to live for, Mr. Viking. Like, I know. Remember this guy?
Constructed.
Well, I've been watching this guy named Winter, and he keeps dropping these Vikings. To, like,
No, he
harass me.
doesn't. Citation needed. I don't. Does he do it after not killing any overlords?
No, probably the killing first.
Yeah, this is a pretty great example of that. Like, it just comes with playing more. You got to be building some SCVs here, like Sure, building an armory and 2 more depots is good, but none of those things are needed now more than SCVs. Like, the first priority is constant SCV production. And then you, like, almost all builds, back to Hero Marine, like, almost all builds are kind of layered on top of that. But that is the first part of everything, is assuming you are constantly producing SCVs. Otherwise, you can't support all the rest of the build. Alright, so he's going Hydras. That's cool for him. The answer? What is the counter to Hydras?
Units.
Yes. Surprisingly accurate. I mean, I also would have accepted, like, Marine tank or tanks. Because
Oh, yeah, but that's what I'm doing. Marine,
yeah, like saying units was actually the right answer because that implies you're like, just build what I'm building right now. And the answer is yes, just build what you're building right now. That's
Your
good.
add-on is all done.
You notice what you're not doing while you sit here and wait for a third command center?
SCV production.
Any production.
Well, I'm saving up money.
You're saving up money. Why?
Because my third command center is like a minute and a half late.
And why
Oh,
is
really?
that? These are leading
distract.
questions. It is because you were microing a Viking instead of building SCVs for the last 2 minutes. And now you have 6 idle SCVs. You have 150. You know what would have paid for this command center? 4 or 5 mules mining.
Fair point.
So, like, I don't think you should be always spending every single bit of energy on mules, but you should never have over 100 energy on CCs, especially in like the first 10 minutes. There's no reason to ever have that, like, unless you somehow going like lurker drop or something, in which case,
Have a wonderful
what
day, Mr.
is
Winter.
going on? I don't. Never over 100 orbital energy first 10 minutes. That's something you can easily check your own replays for. Like, it is some of your problem. It is a bit of a band-aid, but the Terran is balanced around mules, right? Like, if you don't have mules, your economy is just worse. So, right now, you're not only not producing SCVs. Part of the reason you're not producing SCVs is because you're not dropping mules, which means you don't have money to build another command center to produce more SCVs and drop more mules. Would you rather have more money or less money? More money. Okay. Glad we established this. There you go. You don't have to worry about dropping them on different patches. They'll figure it out for themselves. By the way.
Really?
The way mules work is, so SCVs have like a max saturation, which goes up to 24. And they trip over each other, right? Like, only 2 SCVs can really mine a patch reliably, up to 3. But mules, they go over the top, literally. You watch them mining. The only thing mules care about are how many other mules are mining. So they'll automatically, like, if you drop them on one patch, and I say this because you spent like 5 seconds dropping mules, if you just drop them all on one patch, they'll automatically spread out in like a second and find their own place in the mineral line, as long as you drop them on the minerals. So,
Oh, cool.
So just
you don't
boom,
lose
boom,
that
boom.
like that last trip with the mule.
Okay.
if you-
All right. If we're going to start worrying about the 20 minerals the mule is carrying at the end, I'm going to need you to start worrying about any other part of the game first. All right? If you're out here asking me whether the 20 minerals that they may or may not have at the end of their lives is the real issue, I'm out here asking, what are you talking about? Like, I don't-
All right,
But
okay,
innovation pulls his mules off at the last. Yes. That is the start and end of things you should try to emulate that innovation
Upgrades,
does.
research complete. But have
Actually, that's the end. You should just ignore it.
we
All right?
learned anything?
You already got an armory, by the way.
I know. I figured that out later.
That is one of the least. That is one of the most obvious things for like Twitch chat to pick up on. That doesn't really matter. An armory is 150, 100. It's not even a tank, so it's not a big
Add-on
deal.
complete.
It's just the forgetting of it is
You
the
took
big
all the
deal.
minerals from that cluster, you thief. Add-on finished up. You picked that one? You're all mined out of that mineral field.
Like, you right where you are right now, you could be here, I would say, at 7.5 minutes. With everything that's happened in this game and with a more ideal build, like, Hero Marine could probably be here at 6 minutes. But 7.5, it doesn't sound like much more than 6 minutes, but 90 seconds is over an entire mule life, since we're kind of working off that. So you'd have another few rounds of mules. Also, I don't know if you're noticing this here. This is sometimes hard to see, but the reason it says you have 8 out of 16 SCVs on your natural is because your SCVs are very much all encouraging one SCV to get its work done today, and that can also create issues. So
Yeah,
it's
I don't
hard
know
to
what it
notice
is
those
I'm doing.
things. You probably rallied at some point or right-clicked on an SCV instead of a mineral patch, and it's just...
Mineral pack.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
they're
happened
just...
the first time we did coaching, and I honestly don't know how it happens.
You just miss. Like, you just misclick. You don't perfectly click on the correct pixel, and then that happens sometimes. I think they're actually just idle, which does make it worse. Like, because you could fix it.
Command center upgrade.
There you go, and you do immediately.
Your research is complete.
Okay. So you have 2 mech upgrades and 1 infantry upgrade, which is an interesting split.
Yeah, it was just I didn't have enough money when I did the infantry upgrades. Didn't notice till later.
Yeah, that's a pretty large mistake in the scheme of things. And it's been, what is the timer when I say to go for 50 workers for any race? It's hardest with Terran, but it's very easy to pull up. 50 workers by what time?
Sorry.
8 minutes.
8 minutes.
It is even for back to Big Gabe. I've seen him get 50 workers before 6 minutes. He also does disgustingly greedy 3cc builds that he deserves to die for sometimes. But 50 SCVs by 8 minutes. And all right, I'm bringing the calculator out. I've been playing too much dice and Sphere. All right, but so you start with 12 SCVs, right? So that means you actually only need to build 38 more, and they take 12 seconds apiece. 12 seconds apiece for that. It's less than 8 minutes on one command center of building SCVs. It's about 7.5 minutes of building off of one CC to get 38 SCVs. So that means you missed a lot to only have 49. You lost 4, so we factor that in. But with 2 CCs, you can build those 38 extra SCVs in 4 minutes. Let alone 3. Of course, the third CC took a while to come up, but SCVs, supply depots, well, you actually don't get supply box very often. I'll give you that. Except when there's a bunker you should have stopped behind your mineral line. But otherwise, I like your all upgrades on the... It looks very nice. In fact, there's no downside to this. I've started doing this. It took me too many years. But there's no downside to having the upgrades on the high. It seems like you're actually using them. So you're doing that better than most players of higher levels. So at least there's that.
Yeah,
Don't need a sensor tower.
Week, right?
Likely, yeah. Sensor tower in the main, not as good as... You can put a sensor tower at the edge of your third on most maps, and it will cover to the edge of the main. Also, if that's your warning for mutas, it's too late. Also, you saw Hydras. So there's no reason not to have, at your third, the sensor tower. I don't mind the sensor tower. You got money. You probably need the help. I think sensor towers are mostly underused. But no reason not to have it at your third, so that way you can actually see units that are going to attack you, as opposed to, I don't know, scouting the one overlord that's probably out there or something.
Upgrade.
So why do we need turrets?
I honestly just thought, okay, I've got some money. I'm
Do
probably
you?
ahead.
Are you?
Well, he attacked those lings, so he probably is all.
That was a
messed up
while.
or
Like that was like 8 minutes ago.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I was thinking, but so I just thought that the thing that's gonna screw me up is like a doom drop in my main. So
A
that's
doom
what-
drop.
You know.
You know you're facing Zerg, right?
Yeah, I can do the overlords.
What if they just attacked? Like
I
on
got
the
siege
ground.
tanks. Yeah, I got the siege tanks and.
You know what's even better? Is more siege tanks. And what aren't we building? That we're getting double up. Yeah, there you go. Also, this will take more of your precious few SCVs off of mining to build turrets that you do not need. I don't mind getting like one or... I think I had notes on this. Let's see. Oh my god, you followed my directions. And you followed them to the letter, and I don't like that. I said no more than 4 turrets before 150 supply. So at 151 supply, you're like, all right, here we go. Do I need to move that to 200? Yeah, that was the notes from last time. It was supposed to be a general rule to stop you from building too many turrets. Not, now is
Feel like it
turret
worked.
time. I don't. We're following. You're like, I'm like, build 4 Hellions against Zerg. You're like, well, I kind of just don't like doing that. You're like, at 150 supply, 4 turrets. 151 supply. I got the number. I don't know.
Completed. Your force.
If you're gonna be this
Just a little
strict
bit better.
on following my directions, be that strict. Okay, follow all of them. Not the turret-based ones. Jesus. The summary is, you saw Hydras max out and attack. Build 1 or 2 turrets, maybe near your mineral lines, maybe he gets mutas, probably not, because you scanned and you saw a bunch of Hydras. So he's probably got Hydras. And Hydras are not a major threat in Overlords. They're a major threat when they attack you on the ground. Overall, like, this, on the bright side, it is much better that you did this at 150 rather than, say, whenever you were doing it before, which I assume was
complete.
significantly earlier. Oh. What are those?
Hydralisks. And
Those are Hydralisks.
Engaged your forces.
Yes. I mean, if that sensor tower was at your 3rd, would have had even more warning, but you did build a lot of units with upgrades, so you kind of crushed it. Unfortunately, you have some house tanks going on. You see, like at your natural and stuff, but overall, you kind of just smashed it, because that's what a bunch of Marines, tanks, and medevacs will do. So, thankfully, the turrets did not... Well, at 150 supply, you should have enough solid... Like, if you've been upgrading, which you have, if you've been building the right composition, which you have, 150... No! What are you doing? Where are you going?
Well, you said I
Let
could
me
start
pull out
dropping
my-
when I got to platinum.
Did I say that?
That's what I heard. You may not have said that.
I might... That's what you interpreted me saying as? But why? Okay, so what do you think was the main factor in winning in that attack?
Siege
No.
tanks.
Yes. And what are you not bringing in these medevacs?
Siege tanks.
Okay. All right.
Well, I wouldn't drop to win. I would just... I just loaded up 2 to, like, make him leave me alone while I...
So you
build more
just
siege
crushed
tanks.
his army. When you crushed his army, and his army is reduced in size, and you maintained a critical mass of units and lost almost no siege tanks. Just no like, what is the best tactic, do you think, in this scenario?
I see your point. I was thinking I need to get more production, more at a 4th. I need to distract him for a bit. I need to max out. and then I need to beat his army again. And even if I trade badly, I'll have more production than him. So
You have the production. You did a good job on production. You're at 170 supply. There's not much to go. Like, you are 30 seconds from maxing out if you're focused on it. Go fucking kill him. That is the solution here. I like the thought, but you've already got a 4th on the way. You can distract him by punching him in the face. That's a good distraction. This is when you've heard. Did you happen to watch the video of Cure versus Patience on the ESL finals?
No. I mean, maybe. I don't know.
Well, Cure was channeling you there, I'm sure. But instead of just attacking, well, you know my thoughts on Terrans who do this. There's no reason to drop here instead of attack. Terrans are too scared to attack. It's a real issue. Like, because Zerg is scary, right? Zerg has a lot of stuff. Yeah, I go to the everyone cam for a second. Just that E key. That's a lot of creep. He did a good job on the creep.
Oh, I didn't even know all that creep was there.
Which is part of the problem here, by the way. Like, because you're about to drop and you're going to fly over a bunch of creep, which kind of defeats the purpose anyways. But the main point of this is you have a bunch of tanks. And those are the main factor in winning these fights. Go kill him. If you crush a fight and you still have most of your army, attack. Focus on producing while attacking. Remember Hero Marine, but do not drop. One, it's painful to watch you try to set it up. It's not easy to drop, like, dropping at the right time in a timely manner is difficult. The mechanics on drops are just like picking up and dropping out, and this isn't Starcraft. It's not easy to get the hang of. You have 75 APM. That's not an insult, but it is not best spent on medevacs. That is just not going to work out. It's best spent on A-clicking and also building Marines and tanks. And also, this is not a drop. This is... You're getting an all expenses paid rest break and 2 medevacs here for those Marines. So, oh no. So you want to tip on? You shouldn't use this. You shouldn't use this tip. But I'm going to tell you how to drop those medevacs. Here's what you do: you control click the medevacs. That selects all of them, right? And then you declick where you want to drop. Only the medevacs that have units to drop will go out, because those are the only ones that have an unload command. The rest of the medevacs will stay at home. The rest of the units will stay at home. So if you want to make a dumb strategical move like this, that is the most efficient way to do it. So, but you shouldn't. But if you were super intent on it, there you go. As opposed to, you shouldn't. Let's be clear. Wow. Okay. I mean,
I heard you. I heard you.
I'm glad we went through that whole process, at least. Like, I'm glad we could watch the whole thought process there. That was good.
Your army is under attack.
This is when you scan, by the way. This would be the time to scan. Oh, are you? But you tried to scan, didn't you? I see it. You got your command center selected right now, and they don't have energy.
Mineral field.
If he doesn't have notice he's building a Baneling nest. If he doesn't have Banelings, that should have been a big takeaway as well. If he doesn't have Banelings, go win the game. If he has Banelings, you need the tanks to be sieged, but he doesn't have them.
Mineral patch is gone. The enemy is attacking your...
This was a nice move from him. Okay, so this is the moment of truth here. You've been doing okay on trying to produce. Obviously, as soon as you moved out of your base, somehow you got a small loan of 2,000 minerals. Like, how does that happen? Nobody knows. Like, but I saw you at least putting some together on it. Like, it wasn't perfect. It was far from perfect, but you're trying. So what's the answer here? Well, one, the answer is to... a good habit is to rally to, like, one of your supply depots or behind a mineral line when you're moving out. That's another Hero Marine thing. Just so that way you have some at home in a choke point is usually a good idea. But honestly, at this stage, if you have the time, you box all the SCVs and then try to right-click them to mineral walk to like your third or something. You're gonna lose a lot. And this really shouldn't be a base trade, but
Your precious base.
you can win it, is the summary.
Stim to win.
You have the better army. Honestly, in terms of prioritizing, why are you so much better at this stage than the early game? Is this the part where you start paying attention during pro games? Okay, like
Yeah, pretty much. It's like the fun
this
part.
is what you're like everyone and myself included. You just kind of skip to like, oh, this is where the fun begins, and just ignore the first 5 minutes. The first 5 minutes are what allow you to get to this stage comfortably, but you're obviously better at this stage of the game than in the first 5 minutes where you're like, I don't know, I'll kind of freestyle a build order. They don't call it a build freestyle, okay? It's an order. There is an order to it. It's in the name.
Attack.
Yeah, this was actually, like,
The enemy
you're right.
engaged your
This was a
forces.
better game.
I've never seen this screen before. Wow.
Besides the hiccup at 150 supply and the early build, like, that was actually the crisis management over 150 supply with that nearly maxed out army was better than some diamond players. The build, as we've seen from both games, the build and the early game is worse than some platinum players, and that is your issue. Like, the getting distracted by any, like, let's call it the MOBA phase. We want to get out of the MOBA phase as quickly as possible. The MOBA phase is when you have less than 5 units, like in a MOBA. So, instead, we want to just skip past that by having a solid build. Instead of relying on 3 Marines and a Cyclone, let's build 6 Hellions and not die. Or instead of making 1 Reaper and then not paying attention to the minimap, let's make a bunch of Marines and sit in our base. In TVT, for example. So, let's avoid the MOBA phase as much as possible and get to the actual RTS phase, which is here. And that was all compliments deserved. This was well done. Like, the attack plus the defense was better than I expected based on the first 5 minutes of the game. So, you have it's the most boring part to fix, right? Like, it's something that could be fixed by going and playing against the AI 20 times. But that's not very exciting, is it? But it is what needs to be fixed here. If you want to get to this stage, you got to have a better opener so that way you're not in a weird spot in any matchup where either you just lose or you're way behind because you had no plan. Does that make sense?
It does. I don't know how to fix it because I have played against the AI several dozen times.
Well, against Zerg, just the Hellion build. You said you played against the AI, but then you sent me a game where you went Reaper against Terran. And while against Terran, going Reaper is fine. But then you just didn't see a bunker at your natural, which I don't think the AI makes too many bunkers at your natural, but like, that is something you can't, like, if somebody's building a bunker in your mineral line, you can't miss it. Like, that's just, you can't miss it. There's nothing else there. It's just, you cannot miss it, or otherwise you kind of deserve it. So, any questions on this game that you had?
No. So it sounds like I gotta learn some race specific builds.
Literally
Hellion
just
build.
adding Hellions
Just a-
instead of a
just-
Cyclone. Like, I wrote
Okay.
down the build. I've got a pretty explicit build, and I like to base builds off of not exact supplies, but on other things finishing, so Like maybe you lose an SCV or two and it doesn't screw up everything because it's based on, when your Marines finish or when your factory finishes. So you have more baseline stuff to work off of. But I included that, though you could just watch like 70% of all TVZs for a build as well. Like, like
They're all the same.
for the last 10 years. Between 60 and 80. I don't know if it may be 6 to 9. I don't know. But literally, though. In every other, like in TVP and TVT, it shifts a little more. Like, it shifts with balance patches and with, like, the specific meta and the maps. But TVZ is definitely one that you can just... It's been figured out. That's how we play. Like, how many times do you see the casting? It's like, will the Reaper kill a Ling? That's how mapped out it is. Yeah. So, people know how to play that. Otherwise, this, like, you had the right plan. And this was all done with, and this is not an insult, 79 APM. And almost all of that, especially for the last 10 minutes, was pretty efficient. So, the Zerg at 140, which I don't know what he was making more Zerglings with that. His creep spread was good, not that it, and then he forgot a Baneling nest, so. Like, that's what you'll get.
So should I work on like increasing my APM? I don't
No. There's no such thing as working on increasing your APM. The way you increase your APM is by playing more games and focusing on more stuff. You play less like a MOBA and more like an RTS, and that's how you increase it. Like, high-level players don't get more APM by hitting more keys. They get it by more efficiently doing their build so they can focus more on micro. Like, when instead of misclicking your SCVs 3 times and then having to go back and fix it, you get it right the first time, and then you build more Marines, and now you have an army, and wait a second, now you have something you can attack with. That's how your APM goes up. Not by, oh wait, was I supposed to build an NG Bay? Wait, another armory? Like, that you increase your APM in the short term by spamming or by doing a bunch of micro, because right-clicking each time technically counts. But the actual way, and the actual reason, like, Raynor and Big Gabe and, like, Neeb have so much APM is because they can flip around the map and be doing a bunch of different stuff and rely on themselves to know what they're supposed to be doing before they start trying to do it, instead of thinking about it beforehand. So the answer is, no, don't focus on APM, but it will come with time, and the more you get down that early game plan, the higher it will go. Maybe not a lot higher. That takes time, and some people are just faster than others. Like, Pult was notoriously... Do you know Pult? My favorite player of many. You don't know Pult?
I don't remember that name, but was that like...
Well, he was a very... Like, he was known for... as a multitasking-oriented Terran. Like, drops everywhere, bio-micro. He had sometimes around 200. Which, for a pro player, doesn't sound like a lot at all, right? It's just he was so smart about moving things around that he didn't need... Like, he was going up against players with double his APM and beating them. Like, he was actually kind of a counter to all the, you need 400 APM to compete. Because work smarter, not harder. So, I'm going to... The big things here are worry about your damn self. Reapers hurt more than help. Like a metronome or a timing or something for the minimap. Watch Big Gabe and focus on your priorities. Alright, repeat as many of those as you can. This is the quiz. Yes, you will get the note.
So let's see, it's metronome. Worry about myself. Watch Big Gabe. That's all I remember. I could make up some other ones like
priorities.
Yeah. Priorities. What does it mean exactly?
And what are your priorities? I want you to tell me what you think your top 5 priorities are, like in order. Okay, let me starting from the beginning of the game to like the 6-minute mark. That's like where your biggest issues are. What are your priorities there?
Constant SCV production.
That's there.
the build order.
Okay,
So,
I'll read them out. Like you're hitting the marks, and I don't expect you to get them. Just for your game plan priorities, 1 is finish your expansion. That's top priority. Otherwise, it ruins the rest of your build. 2 is second depot. 3 is SCV production. 4 is 111 is finished. And then 5 is scouting. That's like, obviously you should do all of those, but if you need to choose, you pick from that in that order. Like, if you need to choose between seeing whether or not he has a tech lab on his factory and finishing your command center, well, you finish your command center. That is the priority. So, I'm pretty long-winded. I think that about wraps it up. I don't know what other questions you have. I think I gave you've definitely improved, and you were right on both. 1, it looked like you had no idea what you were doing, and the second one, the Zerg game, was a good game. Like, that was noticeably better, especially in the later game. So, but your questions.
How soon until I can get to diamond? I know that's kind of like a loaded question, but
how soon to diamond?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it felt like there were certain things that needed to happen. Like, you're like, stop dropping, you'll get the play. I was like, there was a couple other things, but like, what else?
Well,
do we need
the
to do
things it probably isn't as noticeable, but I think part of the reason you're now in platinum is you stopped building random ass turrets. Because while you're still building random ass barracks and supply depots, at least those can be useful. But when you build 10 turrets and then they build no air units, those are literally just a total waste of money. Like, that's an entirely just throwing money down the drain. Like, having too many supply depots and barracks is not 100% always a problem, but sometimes building turrets is 100% a problem. It's just taking away from everything else. That isn't nearly like that fixed it, but that can be a big part, and you were a big offender on the TPM anonymous problems. So I think like that factors in. Just getting out of gold is partial. It's not so much like knowing your build perfectly. It's just cutting out not only the money, but also the time spent on things that are literally only going to hurt you. So, and also platinum as a league, I don't know if you've noticed, but the MMR range is actually smaller than 1 tier of diamond. So it's only like 500, less than that, like 400 MMR from the bottom of plat to diamond. So, if you actually take most of this to heart, and how many games on average per week would you say you're playing? Just ballpark.
It varies a lot, but 20.
20? That's not bad. I think with 20 games a week, by the end of the season, maybe next season, you can be scraping diamond. It depends on how much you take it to heart. But the season ends at the end of March. The next season starts April, so that'd be like a little under 2 months. I think that's pretty realistic. With 20 games a week and actually taking... You don't have to take everything, but the big ones are having priorities and worrying about the early game. I think if you could play like you did in the last 5 minutes of that last game, in the entire game, you'd already be diamond. So, like, that was diamond level macro and multitasking. And by multitasking, I pretty much just mean producing any units while not being in your base. So... It's really not that complicated. But yeah, so it's a process, and I can't guarantee it. And I know I'm a little biased on that, but I think it's realistic. So
okay, looking forward to it.
Don't disappoint me. Anything else? Don't you dare.
Nope, I'm all good.
All right, well, I'll send over the notes. I hope this was helpful, and thank you for the support, as always. Good luck, have fun. Have a great day. And week and months. Good luck. Let me send the notes. That was less painful than last time.